Welcome back, Patriots, to the Bald Brad Show. Heck, it's Monday, August 12th, and let me tell you, I couldn't be more than happy to start this week off right, hanging out with the Patriots and going over all the major headlines that you need to know about. I see you all in the chat, and yes, that is me writing to you in the chat where I said, hi, Pat, hi, Kitten, hi, Karen. That is absolutely me, nobody else. Good to see you, Dane. We got a lot of people over here. The architect. We got Troy in the house. We got secret agent. Kathleen's here. The architect. I think I already said that. Hell, it's morning. Meredith is here. Big Weave. I see all of you. Yes, folks. Again, I just want to reiterate. Some people get confused. Is that really Brad writing in the chat? Yes, that is absolutely me. We do this show live every single morning, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And let me tell you, folks, it's been a hell of a couple weeks with Joe Biden dropping out, right? Kamala Harris stepping in, having no policies whatsoever. And because she has no policies and she doesn't know what the hell she's doing, well, you know, she has to steal from Donald Trump, which we're going to get to in just one moment. We got Trump doing his thing. We got J.D. Vance doing his thing. We got a lot of J.D. Vance today. We got Kamala Harris just like her boss, Joe Biden, off the rocker. And I'll tell you, you guys, it's the wildest thing to me. It is the wildest thing. Democrats don't see any of it. There is like no mirror. There is no connection to the fact of, hey, why is the media pushing so many positive things about the candidate that I'm supporting? Is she just that great? She's going to fix the border. I kid you not, we'll get there. I don't want to sit there and overload you a little bit, but Kamala Harris is coming out saying she's going to be hard on the border. Oh, she's going to sit there and do no tax on tips. She's going to fix the economy. She's going to fix everything. Democrats, she's in office now. Democrats are in office now. It's like they forgot that Joey, even though he's on the beaches of Delaware, is running the show now. We'll get there. We'll get there, folks. Again, it's good to see all of you. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Now it's like Joey. And then join us over or follow us, either one, over at Rumble. We're growing over there, folks. Okay, let's jump right in the news. Enough of me rambling and ranting and raving. So I always like to start off again with some nice clips, okay? And we got one of Mr. 45, hopefully 47. I see you, Gavin. Here's Trump. He does this quite often. Usually it's his escort that he shakes hands with, the local police department, those maybe military personnel that stepped in to take care of him. So I don't want to blow out your ears, so I'm actually going to drop the audio a little bit. You're not going to hear him anyways. Here he is on the tarmac, greeting those that are protecting him and local law enforcement. And you never see Joe Biden do this. You don't see people standing in line to shake Kamala Harris's hand. Nope. It's always, this is a normal thing. We've shown this time and time again. This is a normal thing from Donald Trump to sit there and shake the hands of the men and women that help protect him, but also you and I. Remember, it's the Democrats that treat the cops like shit. They're going to say that Republicans want to defund the police. Where am I getting that from? Jean-Pierre in the White House say that about us. Hello? We're not the ones that were asking to defund the police and abolish the police department when you had the whole Minneapolis being burned down in Minnesota, or Chaz and Chop being freaking ran roughshod over there in their area. I think that was Portland, Oregon. It's not us calling for it. It's the Democrats, but that's what they do. They lie. I'm not saying Republicans don't. I'm not saying the politicians don't, okay? I'm not a fan of politicians. But what I will say is there's one side that does it quite a bit more than the other side. And you got to ask yourself, Donald Trump isn't even the president. Scouring the country, going to places where necessarily he doesn't need to go. Case in point, a couple years ago, remember the whole East Palestine train derailment? And Kamala Harris, Joe Biden didn't show up. He had to be invited 2 years later on the anniversary to actually go there. So you got to be asking yourself, where is Joe? Remember, I'm gonna serve out. I'm gonna do my duty. I'm gonna finish my term strong. Where is he? What policies is he creating? There's practically World War III about to take place. And, you think, hey, maybe he's in the Situation Room. He's negotiating on behalf of the American people, working with Kamala out there on the campaign trail. Nope, none of those things, folks. Joey is on the beaches of Delaware sleeping. By the way, this is live footage. He is not a picture. He's just, I don't know if he's alive, okay? I'm assuming he is. All right. But there he is. This is, oh, no, he's moving. All right, there, see, look at it. It's video. I told you, he's alive. Don't worry about it. We're all worried there for a second. Nope, this is what you get. Now, it would make a little bit more sense if everything was fine like we had under Donald Trump the first 2 years, right? Everybody's ripping Donald Trump for going golfing, and everyone's looking around like, yeah, you know, prosperity's pretty great. There's no wars happening. The guy's done a lot. He's destroyed ISIS, but, you know, ISIS comes back under Joe Biden. He's done all these things. I'm okay with him having a little stogie, even though he doesn't really smoke, on the golf green, you know, hitting a nice 18. The guy deserves it. This guy here is run your country into the ground. You got illegal aliens just left and right running roughshod over cities. And don't worry, he's getting a nice relaxation, $400,000 a year. Yep, he's finishing out his term. By the way, it is not joking when I say he's taken more vacation than any sitting president in American history. I mean, the amount of records this guy has broken, there's not enough space in the White House to carry all his awards. Breaking illegal immigration, cracking the 40-year inflation high of 9.1%, the amount of foreign policy that's really crumbled this world and our country by not allowing us to be the security apparatus that we need to be. I mean, the list goes on. Vacation time, the blunders, the gaffes between him and his teleprompter, which I'm going to miss. I hear the teleprompter's going into retirement because it's kicked the shit out of Joe too many times. So it's bad. It's bad, guys. And don't worry, they're going to be there for the American people. Kamala Harris said so. Oh, I'm going to fix all these problems. But you created them. And you're not going to fix them. If you were going to do so, you would have done it 2-3 years ago. You haven't done anything. I mean, hell, remember, they had all three branches of government when Joe Biden and Harris came in the office. All three branches of government could have done anything they wanted. Could have increased the tax rates, could have done the policy there, could have figured out the border, could have figured out inflation, could have done this, could have done that. They didn't want to do it. Just say, look, I know, look, hey, Patriots, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. I see in the chat, I know I'm preaching to the choir. But it still needs to be said, because maybe we'll have a Democrat that kind of stumbles their way in here and somehow gets woken up to a little bit of all this stuff that's happening. Now, the other crazy news that took place was Iran allegedly hacks the Trump campaign. Now, remember how we spent years hearing, oh, Russian disinformation, meddling in our elections. They are working with the Trump campaign to win the elections. Like what they're doing. Election interference, right? All these things. Hello, Democrats. Hello. You see what's happening here? It's a really weird thing that it just so happens it's the Iranians that are attacking Republicans in the Trump campaign. Now let this sink in. Iran is the leading sponsor of what? Yes, terrorism. That is correct. The Mundo, the leading sponsor of terrorism. Billions of dollars go into it. Not a make-up number, okay? That's a real number. Now, who wants to build a nuclear warhead? Oh, yeah, the Iranians. Yep. Oh, let me wet my whistle. It's absolutely correct. No. Oh, wait. Who gave the Iranians $1.7 billion in cash on a pallet? C-747 just flying out. Who gave them $1.7 billion, cold hard, American Crispies? That's Barack Obama and the Biden administration. Correctamundo. Leading sponsor of terror. Okay? Oh, we're not done yet. No. Who wanted to sit there and basically allow the Iranians to build a nuclear warhead, but told us, no, they're not going to be able to? Oh, that's correct. Joe Biden and Barack Obama and the Democrats. Oh, we're not done yet. Who wants to give and is giving and cashing out of $10 billion of your hard-earned money right now for humanitarian aid? Who gave them that money? Correctamundo. Yes, sir. Joe Biden giving all that money to the leading sponsor of terror. Who's sponsoring the Houthis for going after our merchant vessels and our allies' merchant vessels and everybody else's down there in the Mediterranean Sea? Yes, sir. It's the Iranians. Who blew up a ship like 4 weeks ago that's down at the bottom of the ocean? Yes, sir. That's the Iranians. Why would the Iranians want to attack the Trump administration and try to get Kamala Harris in office? Could it be the lacks of policy on the Iranians coming from the Biden-Harris administration? I think so. Democrats, when you have terrorists and those that are funding terrorists rooting for you to win, time to wake up. Time to wake up. Okay, just a little bit here. Okay, I'm not asking for much. I'm not trying to change your whole worldview. Just a little bit. You got to be like, it's a little weird. The Islamic Republic of Iran, the world's leading sponsor of terror for terrorism, has reportedly hacked Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump's campaign. Politico began receiving internal campaign documents from the campaign last month from an anonymous AOL email account that used the name Robert. The emails contained internal communications from a top Trump campaign official that included research from the campaign did on J.D. Vance and potential vulnerabilities that he may have. The research dossier was a preliminary version of the file that the campaign used to vet Vance, something that is a standard practice in presidential campaigns. Again, nothing kind of off the cuff. Well, Microsoft said that the Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a designated terrorist organization, sent a spear phishing email in June to a high-ranking official on a presidential campaign from the compromised email account of a former senior advisor. So I say alleged, but I've also heard this time and time again from other people that it was the Iranians. Again, it would make a little bit of sense since, the Democrats are helping them, funding them, taking care of the humanitarian aid, their education system, allowing them to do this and that. Remember, Joe Biden allowed the Houthis and basically the Iranians to perform, it was 127 attacks before he did anything. So for 127 attacks, Joe Biden, no exaggeration, goes, don't do that. Please stop. Hey, we're going to do something. 127 times. 127 times. So here's CNN talking about the Trump campaign, internal communications, but then they have this panel that just starts speaking a bunch of nonsense, and you're damn right we're going to call them out here. That's what we do.
The Trump campaign saying it's been hacked by what it is calling foreign sources who are trying to interfere in the 2024 election. I'm joined now by CNN contributor Lulu Garcia-Navarro and CNN political commentator
Watch
Essie
what these ladies have to say.
It's great to see both of you here on the Saturday afternoon. Essie, let's start first with you. There are shades of 2016 to this, as our reporter Jeremy Herb was just kind of laying out. And we have known that foreign actors want to interfere in the U.S. election.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge problem. It's not a problem that we're unprepared for, but it's good to be a constant reminder that hacking, disinformation, this is a big part, especially by foreign entities. This is a big part of why, as voters, we need to be really educated.
Yeah, it happens with foreign entities. But if you want to talk about dossiers, what about the Steele dossier, where the Clinton campaign completely fabricated a story about Donald Trump, about Russian election interference? Like, lady, yeah, you three on the screen from CNN. Yeah, your party, the Democrats, make stuff up and spread it. And it's CNN that does it.
Diligent, vigilant, all the things, because so much information is flying at us from so many different places, especially on social media. It's hard to know what's real. It's hard to know what's faked and now fake. And now with these leaks, we're, potentially getting access to things that we're not supposed to see. Any campaign would be very upset to learn that their sort of, their secret weapon, the plans that they have are being shared potentially with the press and then potentially with voters.
Right. And it still remains to be seen. It's very early in all this, what was in this hack, what are in these documents. Lulu, former President Trump famously asked Russia in 2016, Russia, if you're listening, find Hillary Clinton's emails. Now the Trump campaign has been hacked. If you're the...
Wow, you're conflating Donald Trump to ask somebody out there. He went to the Russians. He could have just said anybody. Hey, try to find those emails that were illegally deleted on behalf of Hillary Clinton and her team. Remember how they literally took hammers, actual physical hammers, and smashed all their cell phones, and then she used bleach bit to wipe her servers, and then she deleted thousands of emails. Yeah, if you're going to try to conflate those two, a little bit of wild and just kind of just disgusting stuff coming from CNN, which is typical. It's typical, right?
Trump campaign. How serious of an issue is this? How concerning is this?
I mean, it's hugely concerning, not only for the Trump campaign, but for any American. I mean, this, if indeed it is a foreign government trying to interfere in our election, we should all be concerned about that. I think Politico at this point has been very judicious in reporting about getting these documents, but so far not distributing them and telling law enforcement about this so they can investigate it. I mean, you know, the Trump campaign is trying to spin this, saying that this is potentially Iran trying to attack the former president's campaign because of his own actions. We don't know really who is behind this yet. We do know that America has many enemies. We do know that there are many countries in the world that want to interfere in America's elections. China, Russia, North Korea. I mean, the list is very, very lengthy. And we all, as Essie was saying, need to be very vigilant.
Yeah, and we will certainly be following the story as we get more information. It is truly a breaking story at this point, with new information coming as the minutes and hours go by. I want to talk, Essie, a little bit about.
Okay, if we have time, we'll come back to this, because then they transition and just say outlandish things. But I definitely want to get to other bits of the news, and that's mostly between J.D. Vance, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump. But J.D. Vance here does a phenomenal job over the weekend, really calling out Kamala Harris and her campaign. So this first one is Vance says Harris would build that border wall in 5 seconds if illegals were journalists. So the VP pick here on Friday sat there and mocked VP Harris over both her poor job as the Biden administration's border czar and her continued refusal to take real questions from reporters. Folks, you want to know how many minutes she has spent taking questions? 1 minute and 11 seconds. In total. No. Guys, hey, in total. That one that we saw on the tarmac, that was it. 1 minute and 11 seconds. She sat there and actually took questions. So J.D. Vance takes to X. And he says, if we could convince Kamala Harris that illegal aliens are actually journalists trying to ask her questions, she'd build that border wall in 5 seconds. Absolutely correct. This is something that, for some reason, Democrats are just totally okay with. They don't know her policy. It's not on her website. How can you get behind a candidate if you don't even know anything about their policy, other than maybe looking back on 2020, 2016, or whenever, when she was running? I guess it would have to be 2020. So if you recall this clip, this is one of our bigger videos that we did here, where she talks about, well, I've never been to Europe. I've been to the border wall.
Daily basis. What they do see at their own border, children being lowered over fences, children coming in with, phone numbers stenciled on their hand. Yeah. And so the question has come up, and you heard it here, and you'll hear it again, I'm sure. It's why not visit the border? Why not see what Americans are seeing in this crisis?
Well, we are going to the border. We have to deal with what's happening at the border. There's no question about that. That's not a debatable point. But we have to understand that there's a reason people are arriving at our border, and ask what is that reason, and then identify the problem so we can fix it.
There's one other topic I wanted to talk to you about, but let me just quickly put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point.
God, she's terrible. She is just so terrible. And we might have her for 4 years, folks. We might have her for 4 years. And so she's the border czar, right? She's still, look, hey, they're still in office. Democrats, you're still running the show. You have this coming our way right now. This is making its way, folks. This is making its way to our border, present time. Oh, yeah. Nothing's changed. By the way, you would think that maybe some of these countries would be like, hey, whoa, but stop. No. Folks, you don't make this trek without somebody funding you, giving you food. You're talking passing through multiple countries, making this journey. Who is paying for this? Who is funding this? Who's giving these thousands of people food? How are they sleeping? Who's giving them shelter if they are getting shelter? Who is funding this? I think we know who. And J.D. Vance, we saw this, calls her out. This happened when he actually visited the border wall when he wasn't even a vice president nominee. Or should I say the vice president? He was the nominee at the time. Remember how it took years? Yes, years, years for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to go to the border.
They started their administration. Kamala Harris came into office making promises, and she kept those promises to open the American southern border. They stopped deportations on day one. They stopped construction of the border wall on day one. We see the border wall sitting here, ready to be completed behind us, and that can't happen because of Kamala Harris's administration. They reinstated catch and release, and they stopped remain in Mexico. So all of these asylum claimants who come to our border, they can now get released into our country because they're not forced to stay in Mexico while we adjudicate their asylum claims. And we have to remember that as terrible and idiotic as these policies were, they cause real human beings to suffer. A lot of you know my story, and I have been a little kid waiting at the bedside of his mother, angry that his mom took something that she shouldn't have taken, but praying to God, please, Jesus, let her wake up. And the unfortunate truth is because of the poison that Kamala Harris has let come into this country, there are a lot of those prayers that won't be answered. There are a lot of parents that won't wake up because when you take fentanyl, you don't wake up. It takes your life. So there are a lot of kids out there who have been deprived of second chances with their moms and dads. There are a lot of moms and dads out there who will never see their kids walk down the aisle because of what Kamala Harris has unleashed at this border.
Yeah, correct. Nothing that he said there was a lie. And you might be wondering, hey, he's pointing to a bunch of border wall that's laying in the dirt. Folks, in some areas where that border wall is laying in the dirt, you're paying rent to not have that thing built and to lay there. We covered that years ago. Not to mention the fact of when you had Arizona and Texas trying to build a makeshift border wall with shipping containers because they're having 10,000 to 12,000 pour into their state each and every day, not a month, every single day. They were trying to do anything and everything that could stop this thing. And so while the Biden-Harris administration was coming out and saying, oh, hey, we're trying to solve it, we're trying to fix this, just work with us, please, behind the scenes, they were sitting there suing Arizona, they were suing Texas and suing Florida and utilizing the idea of the EPA saying, hey, you're ruining the environment. This is on federal land. You can't do it. Sorry, but we're trying to fix this with all of you. It's a bunch of BS. It's a bunch of BS. And so she has the balls, you guys. I couldn't believe this. I found this late last night. She says this. Harris promises to go tough on border security. Lady, you're in office now. Fuck. Jeez. And Democrats like, she's gonna fix it. She's gonna solve all our problems. She's in office now. And it's like they don't go. Less than 200 miles from the southern border, Vice President Kamala Harris promised to fight for stronger border security. Where was this the last, 4 years? It's BS. That's what it is. She has no policy. And so she knows that when something is good that Donald Trump is doing, say no tax on tips and border security, which a lot of Americans are in favor now of deporting illegal immigrants, making sure we have a border wall. Funny to see how things really switch, right? In a matter of like 4 or 5 years when they're actually impacted by this, not just on a market level, on a state, but also a city and local level in terms of trying to get rent. Your health care is going through the roof because they're sitting there siphoning from that. So your premiums go up. I mean, it's happening all over the place. So now when Americans are actually impacted by this, not just at the border states, but all over America, all of a sudden the tune changes a little bit. All of a sudden it's not as racist anymore, right? All of a sudden it's not as xenophobic or bigoted to do these types of things when people are actually impacted by it. which Republicans have been saying for a decade, Democrats, a decade we've been saying this, longer than that. So she says going after Donald Trump for killing illegal immigration legislation that would have curtailed asylum and promising to sign such a bill into law if elected. If elected? You're in office now! Jesus. I was attorney general of a border state and you allowed them all to pour in. I live here. I live in the state that she ran and ran it into the ground. I went after the transnational gangs, the drug cartels, and the human traffickers. No, she didn't. I prosecuted them in cases after case, and I won. So I know what I'm talking about. You don't know anything you're talking about, lady. You can talk out your ass till you're fucking blue in the face, but you haven't done anything. You're in office now. You could solve it now, along with the psycho that's sitting there on the beaches of Delaware, but you don't want to do anything. And you know who sees it? Republicans see it. You know who doesn't see it? Is Democrats. So here is J.D. Vance saying, we don't want to go to war with China, but certainly they are an adversary. The Chinese know they are manufacturing tons of fentanyl that are being let to come into our country. It's amazing how the media is completely silent on all this illegal. Remember how it's such a big deal when Donald Trump was in office? The Democrats are going down there with their video cameras, looking around, fabricating photos like AOC did. You know, her on the cage, looking into an empty parking lot. They're drinking out of toilets. They're drinking out of toilets. It's barbaric. It's like they were drinking out of a faucet that was connected to the toilet because our drinking water that we poop in is the same as our water that we get out of the faucet, lady. That's how clean our water is. They're drinking out of toilets. They're scooping it with ladles, and it's so terrible. Better than no water. And by the way, again, they're not drinking out of the toilet. I mean, shit, I grew up drinking out of a hose. So here's J.D. Vance calling out the point that, fentanyl's pouring across, that China's allowing it to happen, and so's the Biden-Harris administration. And I'd also like to point out that the media don't want to cover the fact that over 250,000 Americans die because of fentanyl. Just completely silent about it. Or the over 85,000 children that were sold into slavery and sex trafficking. Completely silent about it. I swear, it's a remarkable thing that Democrats are just completely unaware of what's going on in their lives.
Do you view China as a competitor or an adversary?
I think they're both, right? And I think that what we want to do here is build the kind of international order where we can check China. We don't want to go to war with China, but certainly they're an adversary. I mean, they know, for example, the Chinese know that they're manufacturing tons of fentanyl they're letting come into our country. Kamala Harris has done nothing about this. She should apply diplomatic and economic leverage over the Chinese to stop manufacturing this fentanyl, which then comes into the Mexican drug cartels, which they then ship into our country.
The United States has designated some of these groups
this is a
and pressed the
scandal.
Chinese government.
Oh, we could do so.
You see how these reporters just constantly interrupt? They're not reporters. Your job is to sit there, give a question, and receive an answer that's hopefully in line. Wait for the person to finish, and then interject saying, hey, I didn't feel like my question got answered, or you move on. But they're activists, people. They're activists.
So much more. Fentanyl is not easy to manufacture, Margaret. And if Harris was applying proper leverage to the Chinese and to the Mexican drug cartels, we would not have so many people dying of fentanyl overdoses.
How do you do that? What's your vision of how you do that?
I think you walk into Beijing, you talk to Xi Jinping, and you say your entire economy is going to collapse unless you get access to American markets. You need to take this fentanyl seriously, or we are going to impose serious tariffs and economic penalties for not following our laws and not helping us stem the flow of this deadly poison.
Exactly correct. It's just I don't want to say a simple conversation, but it's a conversation. Check it out. J.D. Vance is negative ratings. That's fine, but he's ultimately going to gain the respect and love of the American people, especially Republicans, for the way that he talks. He's actually going out taking questions. And by the way, Tim Pool is not a conservative. So I don't know where you're getting that from. Tim Pool is not a conservative. He's not even a Republican. So I'd go back. I listened to Tim Pool for years. I listened to Tim Pool before he was even on Joe Rogan's podcast initially, going after Twitter. He is not a conservative, my friend. And by the way, just because you have a conservative on your podcast, like Donald Trump Jr., doesn't make you a conservative. I could sit and have on a lot of Democrats on my channel, doesn't make me a Democrat. So I don't know where you're getting that from, my friend. So Tim had Donald Trump Jr. on his podcast, by the way. That doesn't mean anything. Like, Fox News has Democrats on their podcast. Does that make Fox News Democrat media? Come on, man. Come on. Wake up. Wake up. Your name's Check It Out. I would, check out your head. Okay, so JD Vance shreds left-wing CNN host Dana Bash for defending Tim Walz. So you have JD Vance, who did basically a spurt of interviews, which you don't see from Kamala Harris. And he shut down CNN Dana's Bash during his interview over the weekend. And we got a clip of this bad boy. Let's roll it.
And on the question of when he left the National Guard, he filed his election paperwork February 10th, 2005. That was a month before the National Guard even announced that it was possible that they would deploy to Iraq, and it ended up being 2 months. He retired 2 months before they actually got the paperwork.
But on CNN last night, Dana, one of the people who was actually in charge of him said they knew they were going to deploy to Iraq in February of 2004, fall of 2004. So he knew he was going to Iraq. He decided to quit, to retire, whatever word you want to use.
Retire.
Because he wanted to run for Congress. He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said. So again, I'm not criticizing the service. I'm criticizing the dishonesty. Dishonesty spoken in favor and for the purpose of political benefit. And I think that the most important thing here, Dana, is it goes to Kamala Harris's judgment. Tim Walz is ultimately going to be the vice president. Kamala Harris is in great health. I'm sure she's going to be president if she wins for 4 or maybe even 8 years. Why did Kamala Harris choose a person who has lied about their military service? I think that is a serious lapse in judgment. And I don't want to hear from a campaign spokesperson of Kamala Harris. I want to hear Kamala Harris herself address what I just said.
I've seen a lot of statements from veterans, including those you served with, saying it's just untoward to be criticizing somebody who served for 24 years.
Dana, I'm not interested in the ad hominem. I've heard from a lot of veterans groups who criticize Tim Walz. The question is, he said he served in war, and he didn't. That is a dishonesty. I couldn't care less what one or the other person says about it. I care about what the truth is. The truth is that Tim Walz didn't tell the truth.
Again, dealing with reality, dealing with truth, trying to sit there and figure out what is right, what is wrong. And for some odd reason, again, I'm not saying Republicans don't do this, because they do, but it really comes from the legacy media and the Democrat Party to sit there and lie, and they don't want to actually get to the truth. They want to sit there and push a narrative, and sometimes that narrative is filled with a bunch of falsehoods.
Truth. And importantly, Dana, this is about Kamala Harris's judgment. And I think that when you ask, why has Kamala Harris allowed the border to be wide open? Why has Kamala Harris supported policies that have promoted the increase in inflation? I think it goes to the heart of her judgment, and I think that that's what we should be talking about.
One last question. Donald Trump didn't serve in the military. He received a medical draft deferment for bone spurs to avoid serving in the Vietnam War, reportedly as a favor to his father. Do you find that shameful, too?
I think that Donald Trump didn't serve in the military, but he didn't lie about it, Dana. I've known Donald Trump for a long time. He really honors our veterans. He honors me for my service. Donald Trump didn't lie about serving in the military. He didn't say that he went to Vietnam when he didn't. This is the problem. I don't criticize anybody, whether they served our country or not. I think it's honorable to serve, but obviously a lot of people have reasons for not serving. I criticize somebody for embellishing their record, for lying, saying, I went to war. Dana, do you think that it's a problem that he said, I went to war, but he didn't actually? That seems to be a problem to me.
Well, they've corrected that. Let's move on
to... They've corrected it by admitting that he lied.
Let's move on to another important issue to voters.
Yeah, they've corrected. See how it's a constant theme here of, for some reason, these are supposed to be reporters, but you see bias after bias seep in. It would be different if this was MSNBC. The reason why I say that is MSNBC is open about their left-wing bias. CNN, still to this day, after everything we've seen from Don Lemon, Brian Stelter, all these people, Anderson Cooper, they still sit there and pretend to be unbiased media. They claim that they're the most trustworthy source out there. It's a remarkable thing. And so you saw him sitting there going after Kamala Harris, but also Tim Walz for this about his deployments. You also have him talking about the nukes on ABC News, host Jonathan Karl overclaims about Tim Walz's trans agenda. So he's talking about the trans agenda here. Again, he did a massive sweep on Sunday doing a bunch of interviews, and here we have him here.
Before you go, we commit to this race to kind of sticking to the facts. I mean, I heard Donald Trump give this speech in Montana he just gave, and he said that Tim Walz has signed a letter letting the state kidnap children to change their gender, that allowing pedophiles to claim, I mean, to be exempt from crimes. I mean, this is not true. It's not remotely true.
Well, what President...
Now, does that look like a journalist or does that look like an activist? The whole thing, like, that's preposterous. How could anybody say that? I mean, that's not even remotely true. Did you see his face? Like, can we just go back again? Just like, oh my God, how could you say that? It's not even in this atmosphere. Like, just, here we go.
And finally, before you go, we
face.
commit to this race to kind of sticking to the facts. I mean, I heard Donald Trump give this speech in Montana he just gave, and he said that Tim Walz has signed a letter letting the state kidnap children to change their gender, that allowing pedophiles to claim, I mean, to be exempt from crimes. I mean, this is not true. It's not remotely true.
Well, what President Trump said, and I haven't watched the whole rally.
What he said was not true.
What President Trump said, John, is that Tim Walz has supported taking children from their parents if the parents don't consent to gender reassignment. That is crazy. And by the way, Tim Walz gets on his high horse about mind your own damn business. One way of minding your own damn business, John, is to not try to take my children away from me if I have different moral views than you.
Allowing the state to kidnap children to change their sexual identity.
What I just explained to you, I would describe as kidnapping, John. He has absolutely done this stuff. It's not crazy, John. Come on.
It's not what
you should not.
I guarantee you're not going to see this treatment with Kamala Harris. She hasn't done an interview yet. You would think that you would show a little bit more respect in these interviews as reporters. The fact that these guys, meaning Donald Trump and JD Vance, are willing to take the time to even meet with you because you guys are assholes to them all the time. All the time. You would think that you would have a little bit of grace, the fact that they're sitting there so you could do your job, all the while the people that you're rubbing the shoulders for, meaning the Biden-Harris, especially the Harris campaign, you would think that you'd be a little bit more respectful. Scumbags.
Not be able to take people's children away from them.
And that's not what he's proposed.
If you disagree.
He literally does propose that, by the way. And it's not just him. We've seen this from the Democrat Party, from the progressive side of the aisle, which Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are both friends of. Folks, they want to sit there. If you don't affirm, they call it gender affirming care. We covered this. If you don't sit there, according to the Democrat Party, and affirm your child that is a biological male, saying that they are a girl, your child could be removed from the home, and Tim Walz is behind it. I don't know why this guy sits there and can't make sense of what's happening here, but they're not journalists. They are activist journalists. In the same way there are journalists that are not activists, like a student athlete. You're a student first, and then you're an athlete, okay?
With decisions about gender reassignment, yes, he has proposed that, John. He absolutely has. Now, here's the more important thing, John. Why are we talking about inflation? Why are we talking about the fact that groceries are unaffordable thanks to Kamala Harris's policies, and so is housing? We've talked a little bit about the border. Why aren't we talking about the fact that the entire world is on fire because Kamala Harris's foreign policy, she's just asleep at the wheel? We have a set of plans. You talk about sticking to the facts. Donald Trump and I have a set of plans to lower the cost of housing and food, to bring peace back to the world with American leadership. That is all that we want to do. And I think it's telling that the Harris administration is focused so much on these side issues instead of on the real substance, why Americans are unhappy with Kamala Harris's leadership.
To be clear, I just asked you about something that Donald Trump brought up, not something that the Harris campaign brought up. I was asking you about Donald Trump's
No, I'm
words.
saying that
thank you.
But the Harris campaign
What are their policy views? They don't have a policy position on their website. Should she sit down and answer tough questions with you?
Yes,
I think she should.
absolutely.
Where is she?
Well,
but we respect the American people
hope,
enough.
We hope she'll be on the show soon.
I hope so
Thank
too,
you.
John, because the person who wants to be our president ought to sit down for some tough interviews. I'm willing to do it, and I wish she would too.
All right, JD Vance, thank you for your time. Really
Thanks, John.
Just shows you how scummy the media is, man. And it just how just corrupt it is. And I sit there and I advocate on behalf of reporters. You guys see me cover the White House press briefings along with those men and women that are in that room. Some of them are terrible. Some of them are absolutely phenomenal, which is why I'm big fans of them. Like Philip Wegman of Real Clear Politics. The guy is great. He doesn't just sit there and ask Republican questions or Democrat questions. He asks questions that need to be covered. Jackie Heinrich of Fox News pushes back on Karine Jean-Pierre and the Biden administration, asking the hard questions, calling out things that none of the other people in that room will do, along with Peter Doocy asking the hardball questions, which is why they have notoriety, because they're asking questions that the American people want to know. These media people, this John Carl here, is asking, well, why is he lying? Well, why don't you sit there and do reporting on Kamala Harris lying about her record? Oh, I've been to the border. I've done this and that. No, you haven't. Again, where are they writing all these articles about Joe Biden? They're nowhere to be found. They're nowhere to be seen. It's a typical thing. We said it was going to ramp up. It's only going to get worse. And why is it going to get worse? Because even with the media just getting in there and eating the gunk between Kamala Harris's toes, massaging Joe Biden's old ass shoulders, she has a bump in the polls. When those polls start going down, oh boy, you haven't seen the media act like this since 2016, folks. They're going to sit there and wig out. They're going to lose their shit, and it's going to be wild. But I'll tell you what, you're not going to lose your shit here on the show. You're not going to lose it as long as you're drinking 1775 coffee. You guys know we do a morning show. You're here with us right now, hopefully drinking out of a Bald Brad Show mug. I know Shib and Pat drinks out of it every morning. Well, you guys, there's an advertising scandal going on with Google, Rumble, and X. If you haven't heard about it, let me break it down for you, folks. The CEO of Rumble, Chris, recently released an email from Inspire Brands and Dunkin' Donuts. This went viral recently. The email explicitly states that right-wing culture of Rumble is too polarizing. Us being here, oh God, it's so terrible. Well, in other words, Dunkin' Donuts, if you guys haven't heard about this, has a problem with right-wing culture and wants nothing to do with it or Rumble because of our views, because we cover the actual news, because we cover the BS from the media. So here's the solution. Stop buying products that don't align and support you, and support those brands that actually do support your values and the creed that we hold here as Americans. Because clearly you got these advertisers and you got these companies not wanting to advertise on conservative platforms like mine. You want to know who sits there and supports us? Rumble supports us. You want to know who allows you to say stuff in the chat? No holds bar? Rumble does. You go over to YouTube, you get banned and deplatformed for saying a man is a man and a woman is a woman. You know, God forbid, oh God, it's terrible. So the competing coffee brand who sponsors us here that we all need to get behind is that Rumble 1775 coffee, folks, because they're here now. They understand the values of conservative Republicans. And for a limited time, Rumble's offering buy 2 bags, get a third free, which we talked about last week as well. Go to 1775coffee.com and enter promo code Duncan to get this limited time deal. Again, go to 1775coffee.com and use promo code Duncan to get a limited time deal, folks. It's really bad with what's going on with these corporations not wanting to sit there and advertise on conservative platforms. And I think it's GARM is basically a mediary between the two, between the corporation and the podcasters, say, and they're telling these advertising companies not to sit there, allegedly, not to sit there and go advertise on platforms like mine and others. So wild stuff there. And speaking of wild stuff, you got Joe Biden. Biden makes numerous false claims in softball CBS interview with no pushback. Again, there's a reason why I'm showing those JD Vance interviews, not because that they're just great, but also because there's no pushback on the Biden-Harris administration or Kamala Harris. Like, you could at least, if you didn't want to seem so biased, right? You're giving JD Vance a hardball question. Oh, you know, you guys lied this and that or whatever. But then why don't you say, hey, you know what? There's actually been a lot of lies as well from the Harris campaign. I would love to sit down and go with you through a few of these lies that we've seen as well. And I would love to see your take on it. That way, you're seeing unbiased where, hey, I'm calling out the lies of your administration or the Trump-Vance administration, if there are lies. And then here's some lies from the Harris campaign. They don't want to do things like that because they have an agenda. So here's a little bit of that interview. We're not going to play the whole thing because I don't want to subject you to this. Listen to this guy speak, but here we go.
Let's begin. We're living through history. We really are. Let's begin with your decision. You're at your home, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, late July with your family, and you make this historic decision. Tell me the story.
Look, the polls we had showed that it was a neck-and-neck race. Would have been down to the wire.
Tell me the story.
But what happened was a number of my Democratic colleagues in the House and Senate thought that I was going to hurt them in the races. And I was concerned if I stayed in the race, that would be the topic. You'd be interviewing me about why did Nancy Pelosi say, why did someone, and I thought it'd be a real.
Yeah, right. Like they're going to ask you any hardball questions, Joe. You haven't had a hardball question your entire administration. The toughest question you got was, what's your favorite ice cream, Mr. President? Oh, you guys would be going after me, asking about Nancy Pelosi. No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. Get out of here.
Distraction, number one. Number two, when I ran the first time, I thought of myself as being a transition president. I can't even say how old I am. It's hard for me to get out of my mouth. And, but things got moving so quickly.
Wasn't he claiming that he, even though he was old, he's still up to do the job and that age wasn't an issue, but now all of a sudden that was an issue for him to step out, clearly?
It didn't happen. And the combination was that I thought it was a critical issue for me, still is not a joke, maintaining this democracy. But I thought it was important because although it's a great honor being president, I think I have an obligation to the country to do the most important.
I want to see if they cut that there. Hold on one second, guys. I want to see if they made a cut.
And the combination was that I thought it was a critical issue for me, still is not a joke, maintaining this democracy. But I thought it was important.
I think there was an edit there.
Important because although it's a great honor being president, I think I have an obligation to the country to do the most important thing to do, and that is we must defeat Trump.
I saw those images.
Because democracy is at stake. And he goes on, if you haven't seen the interview, I'll try to cover it maybe in different videos because it's just insane what this guy does and says. And he brings up Charlottesville. Oh, well, I decided to run after I saw Charlottesville with these white supremacists. Bro, it's your party of white supremacy. It's Democrat Party that is the creator of the Ku Klux Klan. I say it time and time again. And somehow they keep trying to swindle this onto the Republican Party. We're not the racists. We're the party that abolished freaking slavery, dude. We're the party that voted for civil rights. If you didn't have the majority of Republican votes because their lack of Democrat votes, you wouldn't have the civil rights. It's amazing how they manipulate people, dude. It's so wild. They sit there and play on people's ignorance. So Nancy Pelosi alluded to Joe Biden's signature being forged against his will during his dropout announcement. Now, I've been waiting to show this to you guys. So, if you recall, Joe Biden was not heard of for like a week. Nobody heard from this guy. There was rumors that he wasn't doing well, that he's terminally ill, whatever it may be. And then he goes on X and he gives out this piece of paper that says, oh, I'm done. I'm dropping out of the race. And then it's a different signature than his. There's no White House seal on it. There's no legitimacy behind it. We don't even know if the guy actually wrote it because he never said that he wrote a letter that said this or that. I don't even know if he's addressed the letter. Take that with a grain of salt. Just because I haven't seen something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I've seen the letter. Here, Nancy Pelosi, you're talking about this letter. Whoa.
I didn't accept the letter as anything but a letter. I mean, there are some people who were unhappy with the letter. Let me say, some said that some people were unhappy with the letter. I'll put it in somebody else's mouth because it was I don't even know, it didn't sound like Joe Biden to me. It really didn't. So, but I didn't accept.
Hello? Hello? Hey, that's a little weird. Little weird is all I'm saying. I'm not playing into it. I'm not going to go too far into it. There was rumors and speculation out there. Take it however you want, okay? I'm not even sure if I believe it because it sounds so crazy that there was a coup, that Joe Biden was gone, okay? I'm not saying dead. I just mean that he was gone. He's out of the White House. He's doing his own thing in Delaware. And that Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris got together. Hey, we're going to enforce the 25th Amendment. We're going to draft this letter. We're going to post it on his platform through X. And then we're going to tell the guy through a meeting, hey, you've already posted that you're out. Sayonara, sucker. And by the way, if you try to fight this on it, we already got approval. We already got the people we need to implement the 25th Amendment on your ass, Joe. And if you don't like it, well, tough bleep. So a lot of people speculated that's what happened. Really crazy stuff. Nancy's such a liar. Yeah, she is a liar. That's why I don't know whether to believe it or not, because she lies through her dentures all the freaking time. I see you guys in the live chat. It's always good seeing you. If you haven't already, hit that like button. It does support us. If you want to subscribe, it's absolutely free. Hit that follow button over at Rumble. I see we got a lot of Patriots here, a lot of new Patriots. It's good to be with you. Also, we're not the only ones that see this honeymoon phase, if that's what you want to call it. So does Kamala Harris here, telling her team that it's just a sugar high, that it's going to wear off. Now, I think it's going to wear off, and she knows this because I guess I should leave it up for a bit if you guys want to check out the article while I ramble. She knows that those interviews are coming up. She should be doing an interview before the end of the month here. I know, like, Brad, it's only the 12th. Yeah, I know, I get it, but that's what she said. She's going to do an interview before the end of the month. I mean, that could be the last day, the 31st of August, when she does one. But because she sucks at interviews and she lies, and that she might be pressed on actual things that matter to the American people, we think those poll numbers are going to drop a little bit. Now, I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen, because I think the media are going to sit there and cover her like nobody's business, man. I think they're going to sit there and be like, hey, you've been so tough on the border. Can you explain your agenda to the American people? So, or they'll sit there and give an actual hardball question, and so she'll sit there and BS, but they won't interrupt her like they do to Trump and JD Vance, right? They won't interrupt her and call her out for her bullshit in real time, like they try to do with JD Vance, even though JD Vance was sitting there telling nothing but truths. So you got this saying, it's been a great week for the Democrats after the last 3 months that they put themselves through with all the yelling and screaming at each other and pushing the president off the ticket. Yeah, but nobody wants to talk about that. I would also like to point out, you guys, that Donald Trump was almost assassinated like a month ago. This is gone. Oh, it's been memory hold. See you later. Nobody wants to talk about that anymore. Well, let's see who these actual voters are of Kamala Harris. I got a couple clips here. Now, I'm not making fun of their looks. I want to be clear on that, you guys. I mean, everybody is their own different person. I'm sure that I look like that standard Republican type of person, right? With the flag and the beard and kind of look like a military guy, even though I'm not. This is who these people are. And what's sad is you could see how indoctrinated they are and just how brainwashed on what they say about Trump and why they're voting for Harris. It's actually really sad to actually hear. Here we go.
For Kamala Harris. Why are y'all voting for Kamala Harris?
It's ridiculous how anymore it's really hard for people like us, like queer people, and just anyone else in that general umbrella. Thank you. General umbrella. It's just really hard for us to get rights, and with
folks, they have rights. They're just human beings like the rest of us. Now, again, I'm a Christian. I might not agree with them in terms of the trans, the LGBTQ stuff. Live your life. I got no qualms with it. My best friend in high school was gay. No qualms. Obviously, I'm a straight man. I'm married. You want to go live your life? Just don't impose your viewpoints on kids and leave me alone. Hey, go out and live it. It's a weird thing that, again, a lot of conservatives and Republicans are actually libertarian in terms of having government encroach upon your rights. We just go out and live it. The problem that we have with the LGBTQIA++ community is they sit there and try to go after children, which wasn't the case years ago. You have a lot of conservatives that are gay. You have a lot of Republicans that are gay. I mean, conservative Ant on TikTok, who's one of the leading guys in terms of influencers, he's gay. And he's like, what they've done to the community is crazy. I just feel bad because she actually thinks that we want to go after their rights. I just want to be left alone, as do you, lady.
How the Republicans are handling everything. It's just putting more and more stress on us, like basically taking away everything we have. And it's just important that we feel safe just even living here. Because everyone's been wanting to like leave the country, and this is like the only chance we have to properly fix everything.
What about
You could tell does not talk to any conservatives or Republicans. This is a person that's in their own bubble, that doesn't expand their horizon and actually have a conversation like we do here on the channel. If anybody knows this young lady, I'll have her on. Not that we have enough viewers to sit there and actually get somebody like that, but I'll have her on and say, hey, look, hey, nobody wants to leave this country other than Democrats, just like they're fleeing their cities because you guys ran it into the ground. We don't want to take away your rights. Again, Republican Party is a party of civil rights, lady.
How about you?
I would definitely say that I want to keep my rights. I really do. As a queer individual and someone who's physically disabled, and may not like be able to do certain things, I feel like they probably wouldn't have accommodations for someone like me, especially given that I like women as a woman. I want to keep access to my bank accounts. I would like to keep
Hold on. No. Hold on.
a woman. I want to keep access to my bank accounts. I want to keep access to my bank accounts.
What the F? Yeah, I see a strawberry in the chat. What the F are they talking about? Yeah, I want you to keep access to your bank accounts too. It's your money. Lady. It's the Democrats that want to sit there. If you have $600 or more in your checking account or your savings, they want to be able to look into that. I don't want that. It's your party, lady, that wants to increase your taxes 70 to 90%, named Kamala Harris. It's your party that's not re-implementing the Trump tax cuts. God.
I would like to keep making money. I don't want to be some man's object. I really don't. It's the whole thing with Project 2025 is terrifying. I read through some of it and it was just insane.
Yeah, but we're not going to give you any examples. Here's the thing. People spew a bunch of stuff, but they never give any examples. Oh, he wants to sit there and take away our rights. Well, can you elaborate on that so that I can actually sit there and decipher what the hell you're talking about? Like, what rights specifically are you displaying in terms of what's going to be removed? He's going to sit there and implement Project 2025. He's come out and said, I don't even know what that is. Trump hasn't even read it. Folks, I haven't even read it. Neither is she. She's probably sitting there lying. Maybe she read the one page of it, or she read a synopsis somewhere. It's like 900 pages. Who the hell's going to read that? Nobody's going to read that. I'm not behind it because I don't even know what it is myself. I know it's a bunch of conservative agenda that when we're implemented into the office that they've already have certain interviews and people set up. Like beyond that, I don't know in terms of like specifically what policies are inside there. But we got one more clip here of more Harris people, and they kind of reiterate the same thing, which is sad.
Why are y'all voting for Kamala Harris?
I don't want to lose my rights. Like, I'm a trans man and I'm gay and I have been pregnant and I've had an abortion before and I don't want to lose that. I'm afraid of not being able to be myself anymore because from what I've heard, Trump's America doesn't want me to look like this. So that's why I'm here today and that's why I'm voting blue.
What about you?
I've also been pregnant and had an abortion before. I was a minor and it would have been dangerous for me to properly, like it would have been dangerous for me to carry a baby with like personal reasons and everything. I also I'm very, alternative, and I feel like if Trump were to win, I wouldn't be able to express myself through my looks and everything, and wouldn't be able to have the piercings or the dyed hair or the tattoos that I want. I would be able to be myself, and my dad's very pro-Trump, and I'm just very
Pro Kamala.
Pro Kamala. Yeah, I don't, it's
Does
just,
that cause a divide at all?
yeah, it definitely does. He thinks.
The thing is, the girl on the left's actually a pretty girl. You know what I mean? I'm not for all the piercings and the stuff, but like I said, again, maybe it's just because I'm libertarian. Conservative values, yeah, we would want you to obviously not look that way, but if that's the way you want to look, like I'm not going to sit there and judge you. I might sit there and have a certain viewpoint of, okay, like maybe had a tough time, but if that's the way you want to sit there and look, like it's your life. I just want to be left alone. But I wanted to make sure I showed you a few Harris supporters because I think they're just lost is all it is. They have a social milieu that they don't actually go outside of. And so they just hear the same thing from their friends and those people around them. And I doubt she actually talks to her father too much about policies. And he probably doesn't handle it the right way with her, to be honest. But I wanted to at least show my audience who's voting for Harris. We got a lot more news still to cover. So I'll make sure that I get that to all of you. But we have to do a hard out at 7 because your boy has to go to work, folks. And work's important. We got to pay the bills. I always appreciate you guys supporting the show. We have a community of patriots. If you want to hit that membership, we have membership over at Rumble as well as YouTube. Don't feel like you have to. You just hanging out with us each and every morning is absolutely phenomenal and great, folks. I know we're doing a hard out, not really much of a close, but we'll just save the rest that we have here for tomorrow's episode, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday, each and every day. If you're new here, come follow us. Hang out in the live chat. We got a lot of patriots in there. We'd love to talk with you. And with that being said, folks, always appreciate your support. Always hanging out with you each and every morning. And we'll be back here tomorrow, here on the Bull Brat Show. Take care, patriots.